Hey, this is Jill Simonello with Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk, and today I am driving off the beaten path in an all-new vehicle. This is the Mazda CX-50, which is all new for this model year, and if it looks a little bit familiar, that's probably because you're thinking of the CX-5, but this vehicle is not that one. It's targeting a completely different customer, and yeah, it's meant to go off-road. So what I want to do in this video is talk a little bit about the differences between the CX-5 and the CX-50, and then I'm going to take a walk around of this vehicle as well as do some first look driving impressions. So let's take a closer look right now. Now, as luck would have it, 2 days before heading to Santa Barbara to drive the CX-50, I have the CX-5. So I just want to take a quick minute to talk about some of the differences and some of the things that are going to be on the CX-5 versus the CX-50. And while you will notice the side profile is very similar, there's a very easy way to tell that this is not that. So first up, let's look right here around the wheel wells. So you will notice this is paint colored. There is no plastic body cladding here. And you're also going to see some brighter chrome here in the surrounding of the windows. So from the side profile, that's a very big difference. The wheels are also going to be brighter and have a little bit more of an elegant look to them. So let's take a quick look at the front, and I think you're going to see another very big difference. From the front, you are going to have two very visible differences here. And the first is going to be this bright chrome bit that you see right here. And the second one is going to be the extra venting that you'll notice underneath the headlights. Both of those things give the CX-50 more of an aggressive off-road outdoorsy look, whereas this in the CX-5 looks more elegant. There's also an anti-glare stripe that is available on the CX-50, which again gives it a more rugged appearance. Now, both of these vehicles will come with the same 2.5 liter turbocharged engine, and so that's going to be the same. But from the outside, as you look at both vehicles, you should be able to tell the difference pretty immediately, if by the chrome, if by nothing else. Now I want to take a quick look at the interior of the CX-5, and I should point out this is the top tier 2.5 turbo signature trim. So that means this is the best of the best, the top tier trim of the CX-5 lineup. And that also means you're going to get some technology on here that you won't see on some of the base models. So I don't know if you can see it, but there is a head-up display. And it does have the lane centering technology as well as adaptive cruise control. You have heated and cooled seats as well as automatic dual climate control, and you have a heated steering wheel. When you pop this vehicle into reverse, you also have an around view camera, which clearly I need to clean right now. But some really good technology in this vehicle and a generally upscale urban looking interior, especially with all of these really nice finishing touches and the bright chrome pieces. Now let's switch over to the CX-50 and take a closer look at that vehicle. Okay, let's bring it back to the CX-50. After that quick look at the CX-5, I think the differences are even more clear. And the CX-50 just has more presence, it has more ruggedness to it. You can see it in the more horizontal aggressive lines, that extra cladding that we talked about earlier, and even these squared off wheel arches. Now, something else that I want to point out is because this is meant to be able to put stuff on top as well as tow 3,500 pounds, you've got more roof stability. So they've built in a little bit more structure to the roof as well as to the B pillar to be able to hold weight on the roof, and again, as I said, tow 3,500 pounds. Now that's with the 2.5 liter turbocharged engine, not the base standard 2.5 engine. Okay, so then bringing it around to the front, You have, as we pointed out with the CX-5, the darker chrome accents around the grille, as well as the venting there. And overall, I just think the CX-50 looks angry, aggressive, but a little bit more adept, as well as off-road ready and off-road capable. So this is going to be the top tier trim with the 2.5 liter turbocharged engine, just as we had the top tier trim of the CX-5. So let's take a look inside. All right, now that we are inside of the CX-50, yeah, I don't know that it really looks too different from the CX-5 that we had, but you will notice this is a 10.25 inch screen, and while this isn't standard on the CX-50, it is standard starting one level up. So it won't be on the base model, but you go one level up and then you have the 10.25 inch screen. The gauges look pretty similar to the CX-5, and all of the horizontalness of this design is going to look familiar. And yep, you do have this little touch control thing, and you have your volume knob over here. I really like this stitching and the seats. These are really attractive. I love this orange stitching, and it transfers through on the dash. You have some really nice leather and soft material here, and again, it looks similar, but I don't know, it just looks a little bit more rugged and active to me than the CX-5. You know, the CX-5 is more elegant and urban, and this to me just looks, you know, more ready to go do something cool. Now, one thing that's really cool on this vehicle that the CX-5 did not have, and this is a Mazda first, this is going to have, okay, yeah, it does have this system here. That's not different. What's different is, yeah, CarPlay is wireless. You have wireless Apple CarPlay on here. And here's something that's even more interesting. If you go into your Apple CarPlay environment, hey, look at this. It becomes a touch screen. Now, the regular system for Mazda is not going to be a touch screen. So your native system in here, you're going to have to use the touch controller. But if you go into the Apple CarPlay environment, you can use your fingers and your hands, but the thing is this is not meant to be a touchscreen. You'll notice I'm doing a little bit of a reach over here. So the way Mazda said is they want you to continue using the touch controller to deal with your Apple CarPlay. But say you have a passenger in here, they would be able to reach forward and mess around with this with their fingers as opposed to using the touch controller. But I like the fact that at least Apple CarPlay is touchscreen, even if the native Mazda environment makes you go back to this. But I will tell you, I am getting more used to this, and once you get used to where these quadrants are, from your navigation to your music to, you know, your home button to the back button, once you get used to where those quadrants are, it makes it a lot easier to touch and do things without even looking down. Now, the really cool thing about this system is, okay, say you've set up your navigation in the Mazda system, which I have, and then you are playing your music through Apple CarPlay, which I've also been doing. When you hit your navigation button, it'll take you to the native navigation for the Mazda system, but if you hit the music button, it'll take you to the music from Apple CarPlay. Now, say I set up my navigation in Waze, but I was using music with the radio stations or the Sirius XM radio. Well, then you hit the map button and it takes you to Waze, and you hit the music button and it's going to take you to radio or Sirius XM. So this is actually one of the better integrations I have seen for Apple CarPlay, and the fact that it is wireless is just icing on the cake. Something else I'd like to point out is that it has a wireless charging pad, and look at that. It's got a little bit of shade, so it's hidden underneath this overhang here, which means that even though this pad is going to warm up while you are charging your phone, you've got a little bit of a shield from sun. And some other vehicles that we've driven recently, they put their charging pad like right here, and then you've got full sun blaring on it while the pad is heating up because it's charging your phone, and yeah, my phone kept overheating. So I'm pleased to say I've been charging my phone all day and it has not overheated. So this is the quick look at the Mazda CX-50, and I'll also point out another first. You've got a panoramic roof available in here. So this is the first vehicle from Mazda that also has that. So that is the interior of the CX-50. Okay, now it is time to talk drive impressions. And before I get into the comparison between the CX-5 and the CX-50, the first thing I want to say is even though the CX-50 is meant to be a little bit more rugged and a little bit more off-road capable, 90% of the time, whoever has this vehicle, even if they're going to go have adventures and drive it off-road, 90% of the time, they're probably going to be on highways, surface streets, neighborhoods. They're not going off-road. So you don't want to make the driving dynamics of this vehicle too rough. You want it to be a very capable vehicle that still handles really well on the road. So that's kind of the point of the CX-50, is that it can go off-road and it can do some off-roady, adventure-y things, but still does pretty well on a highway like this. So all right, so comparison. Both the vehicles I drove had the 2.5 liter turbocharged engine. Both the vehicles I drove also have the available base 2.5 liter non-turbo engine. I like the turbo engine. And it's good in both the CX-5 and the CX-50. Now, what I want to say about the CX-5 is the CX-5, I felt the torque steer a little bit more, and I thought that it felt a little bit lighter, it felt a little bit more nimble, it felt a little bit fast. And that's not to say that the CX-50 feels dopey or sluggish. It doesn't. The CX-5 was just a little bit more fast and a little bit more, I don't know, zippy. But that keeps in character with the vehicle because that is a more urban vehicle for somebody who's probably never going to take it off-road, like, ever. But the CX-50, however, feels a little bit heavier, but still very, very fun to drive and still on the more nimble side of the spectrum. The one thing that I did notice in the CX-50 that I didn't notice in the CX-5 is the fact that I hear a little bit more tire noise coming into the cabin than I did in the CX-5. Not a huge deal. You play music, you're probably never going to notice it. So, there's that. But in general, CX-50 feels a little bit heavier. Now, the one thing that Mazda has done with this vehicle that kind of mitigates that is they've given you drive modes. So the CX-5 does not have drive modes. The CX-50 has drive modes. And they really have only 4 drive modes, kind of. And I'll explain that in a second. So you've got your normal mode, which that's what I'm in right now. I'm on a highway. I'm going, like, just going. So normal mode, sufficient. But there's also a sport mode, which then kind of increases the throttle response, changes your steering a little bit. You get a little bit more of a tighter steering feel, and it just helps you feel a little bit more sporty. It holds your gears a little bit longer. It helps you corner a little bit better, and still not quite as nimble as the CX-5, but does really well. We had some switchbacks and some twisty bits today, and it was a lot of fun. So I fully approve of that. Now, this also has an off-road mode, and the off-road mode is not, your mud and ruts, your sand, your, in the weeds, rock crawl mode. It's off-road mode. So there's no hill descent control. There's nothing like that. It's just off-road mode, and Mazda tuned it simply to kind of understand what it needs to do. So if you've got one wheel that's in the air and another wheel that's, on the ground, the wheel that's in the air spinning, doesn't get any of the torque. It all goes to the wheel that's on the ground. So they made it a little bit smarter and a little bit more intuitive. So somebody who's going off-road, doesn't necessarily need to be very technical about it. And it does really well in that situation. We had some steep climbs, some hill descents where you had to use your own brake, and we went over some moguls and things like that, and the vehicle did really well. I didn't struggle, I didn't get stuck, and it felt pretty comfortable. Now, the final mode that this vehicle has is tow mode, because the Mazda CX-50 is rated to tow 3,500 pounds. Okay, that's not a crazy amount, but it's enough to tow a camper to get you to your cool camping ground location, and this does really well. So they gave us a trailer loaded with cement blocks that were 3,500 pounds, and I didn't feel like a push-pull. I didn't feel a lot of sway. Obviously, you have to slow down a little bit slower, and you're not going to speed up as fast as you would, without a trailer, but I thought it felt pretty comfortable, and that's exactly what Mazda wanted it to do. They don't want you to have to know anything or do anything special to tow with this vehicle. But with a turbocharged engine, 3,500 pounds. Now, the regular 2.5 liter engine, non-turbo, I think the tow rating is about 2,000 pounds, so you can still tow with it, but it's not going to be as much. And the tow mode also not on that vehicle. So, here's the interesting thing about tow mode. You only have that available to you when you are towing. So if you hook up a camper or a trailer, the vehicle, you're plugging in so that you get the blinkers and things to show up on the trailer. The vehicle knows this and understands that you're going to tow something, and that's when tow mode pops up. It replaces sport mode. So you cannot drive in sport mode while you are towing, nor can you drive in tow mode when you do not have a trailer. So I love that they made this vehicle pretty smart. So overall, first impressions are really favorable for the CX-50. For me personally, I probably like the CX-5 and how it drives better, but there's really no compromise here. This is still a really fun vehicle, and it gives you the extra capability to take it off-road, and that I really like. There's one thing that could be a bit of a deal breaker for me. Mazda did something that I thought they would never do, and I feel like they've completely stabbed me in the back. They added auto stop start to this vehicle, and that means that when you come to a complete stop, your engine turns off, and then when you get ready to go, it's got to turn back on again. I hate this feature, and I loved Mazda because they didn't bring it into their vehicles, but alas, here it is. This is the first vehicle that has it, and it's not great. So there is a button to turn it off. It's on the left side of the steering wheel, and it's called iStop. Whatever. You can't just have the same little A button with the circle around it. Nope. iStop. That's the button you hit to turn it off on the left side of the steering wheel. And yeah, it's a very sad day. Mazda, you made me sad. But other than that, I like the CX-50. I think they've done a really good job with it. So more things to come on this vehicle with some electrification and a new top tier, I don't know if they're calling it a top tier, another trim called the Meridian that we are really looking forward to driving soon, because that is going to be the most off-road capable vehicle they will offer. Alright, that's it. That is all I've got. Thank you for checking out the Mazda CX-50 and the CX-5 with me. Overall, I have really good feelings about the CX-50. I think Mazda's done a good job. I really like this vehicle. I like what it stands for. I like the extra capability. I like the ability to tow. I like it, except for that auto stop start thing. But other than that, they've done a really good job. So thanks for watching, and I will see you down the road.